Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we have a great unraveling build based around the World and Maelstrom aspect, but also based around the new seasonal mod that is crazy strong this season. Now think about how busted World and Maelstrom already is on the Hunter build, and then think about how much OP you can get when you have 3+ of them on the field. You can also get 3 damage reduction just from activating them, get a ×4 weapon surge, and also get a super up and running within a minute depending on the environment. And this is done just from a tangle. So if you're interested in the type of stuff, then stick around for more. Let's start with the exotic armor, Foetracer, with exotic effect, Relentless Tracker. It states, a damaging and powerful combatant or guardian with an ability that temporarily increases weapon damage of the same type. Defeating that marked target with damage that matches the elemental creates an elemental pickup on demand. The build can go with many exotics that you choose, as it has room to where the following exotic armor doesn't need to be equipped and active. However, having something like the Foetracer on hand is a nice gesture for the type of build we have on hand. You can quite easily get a ×4 weapon surge and elemental pickup just from using your abilities, to which the build will be making full use of. This means if we can generate a tangles on a constant pace, we can get a ×4 weapon surge buff from start of the GM all the way to the end. However, this could be opted in for the Radiant Dance Machine instead if you want, say, more usage out of the Feather Spectre aspect instead. The build just has enough room for you to pick something that you want, and honestly, you're not really locked down to just Foetracer if you choose to. Our exotic weapon is the Final Warning, with its exotic effect all at once and pick your poison, which states, holding down the trigger marks targets within range and loads multiple bullets, which fire in a burst with increased stability on trigger release. Hitting a marked target with a fully charged burst will unravel them. Hipfire and projectiles will trap marked targets, dealing increased body shot damage on impact, while aiming projectiles have great increased velocity and deal extra critical hit damage on marked targets. With sidearms being the popular weapon for barriers this season, it now gives reason to actually use the following weapon more compared to before. It's a great sidearm that gets overlooked at times, but this is one of the many times it can be highly advocated for such a build on hand. Its ability to unravel targets works well with World and Maelstrom, and the main focus is what the build offers in general. At the same time, pairing this up with Foetracer will allow us to increase the odds of generating tangles and also getting a damage buff all for free. All in all, this is a very deadly primary we have opted in for the build. For aspect and fragments we have the following. A Feather Spectre, where adding your class ability will generate strand decoys that draws the attention of the enemies, and upon being destroyed will generate threadlings. World and Maelstrom, where destroying a tangle will weave a violent writhing mass of strand fibers that seek out targets, damages them, and emitting and unraveling when defeated. Feather Rebirth allows strand weapons a chance to create threadlings on kills. Feather Warding, where picking up an orb of power will grant you Woven Mail. A Feather Transmutation, where while having Woven Mail, weapon finder blows right its tangles. And Feather Evolution, which allows threadlings to travel further and deal additional damage. The setup is fairly easy to understand and can be quite easily replicated with any strand based weapon you have and gear available. The plan here is to maximize the offensive and defensive capabilities that the build offers, while also making sure we have plenty of ways to create tangles on hand. All of this is going to be achieved through Final Warning and its multi-lock capabilities, our strand heavy of choice, and Foetracer, which will be buffing us and granting us the increased chance of getting more tangles. A Feather Transmutation, Warding, Foetracer, and Unraveling Orbs will allow us to create a constant source of tangles, which we can use to flood the field with them. There is a cooldown with using them one after another, but having the Vial Weave mod will help reduce this further, which will ultimately allow us to create up to 3 tangles in the field at once. However, to make the build even more effective, we have also added in the Feather Spectre, Feather Rebirth, Evolution, and a Horse Shuttle mod to increase how effective our tangles are going to be on the field. This will make sure that when our tangles are out on the field, our threadlings will be accompanying them and thus provide us with a huge DPS boost on hand. We also have the Unraveling and Sever effect on hand, which will aid us with weakening enemies. And then lastly, we do have Particle Deconstruction on hand to further weaken enemies hit by our fusion rifle. This will make the build perfect for ad clearing and boss DPS as long as you have enemies available that we can target and trigger effects here and there. For mods and stats, we have Resilience at tier 10 for a 30% damage reduction. Along with the base stat, I've added the Feather Warning fragment for a Woven Mail access and to Shred seasonal mod, which will grant us Woven Mail. This here should be enough for increasing your damage reduction rate to survive more lethal one-hit shots when active, but to be further safe, I would advise you to add the Element of Resistance mod for further safekeeping, or the Concussive Dampener mod for AoE splash damage effect. Discipline we have ours at tier 10 as well, for a 1 minute 16 cooldown via Shackle Grenades. We're going to stick with a nice and easy to use grenade type that will help support us with being offensive and defensive. Now, you can use Threadling Grenades, as we do have Thread of Evolution on hand, but considering you have ways to generate Threadlings already, this might not be warranted. However, this is something to keep in mind if you want to play more aggressive with the amount of safety the build already has. Now with the stats coverage done, let's break down the mods we are using, from head all the way to the class bond. Harmonic Siphon, where getting a matching weapon kill will grant you an aura power. Hands-on, where netting a melee kill will grant you super energy. Heavy Ammo Finder, Reserves and Scoundrel mod for a heavy weapon. Impact and Doctrine ×1 for a 12% grenade ability regen. Blistering Detonation ×1 for a 12% class ability regen. Momentum Transfer ×1 for a 12% melee ability regen. Charged Up for +1 in Charge by Light. Elemental Charge, where collecting an elemental pickup of your class type will generate a Charge by Light. Void Surge mod ×1 for a 10% Void weapon buff. Time Dilation, where your decaying armor charge rate is extended. A Powerful Attraction, where casting your class ability will collect certain pickups within a 12.5 meters range. And Bomber, where you use your class ability near targets will grant you a 12% grenade regen. Now, as we have covered our main exotic primary earlier, it's time we go over the additional weapons applied to the builds. What is shown are all recommendations, so please keep this in mind. For secondary, we have the Afterlight with Ambitious Assassin and Destabilizing Rounds. A brilliant combo that's going to be handy when dealing with ad control or even the bigger enemies on hand. Ideally, having the ability to trigger Destabilizing Rounds is where we can make full use of his ad control capabilities on the more grounded maps, which will trigger Ambitious Assassin's effect, and thus allow us to keep our Volatile Rounds effect active for longer. At the same time, this can also trigger Melee and Harvest seasonal mod, which will produce a weakened impulse around the target, which can be further enhanced with Particle Deconstruction mod for a constant volatile and weakened secondary effect. For endgame, and especially against bigger targets, this can make taking out key targets a lot more safe in the long run. For heavy, we have the Pro Memoriam with Hatchling and Frenzy. But I would recommend you pick up a machine gun, and ideally a strand one, as you will be making full use of Threadlings quite a bit through the seasonal mods on hand, but also because you want something with a bit of range and damage to it as well. The build will be working well up close, but sometimes you won't be able to close the gap with some of the enemy types around. Such a weapon with a combo like this will make it easier to traverse this area, while at the same time being the right sort of firepower needed when everything goes as planned. Now is the perfect time to use Strand Hunters, or generally strand anything, with how powerful the seasonal mods are. By including this build with the mods we have available, you can cover damage and protection without the need of using your fragments to help at times. Since our build is based around creating tangles, and then using them consistently for taking out multiple enemies at once, the following is going to make clearing out areas a hell of a lot easier without breaking your neck. Much of this will be done through Final Warning Foetracer, with Foetracer giving us a damage buff via ability kills and damage, and also giving us the ability to create a pickup item such as more tangles on hand. This is a combo that was pretty popular back in the day when World of Maelstrom was first introduced, but bringing it back has made it shoot up in popularity. As mentioned before, the most popular part of the build is how the new seasonal mods work so well with anything strand based. Unraveling Orbs allows the weapon to unravel targets when the orb power has been collected, which works perfectly when Whirl and Maelstrom is active on the field. Vile Weave will sever targets through Tangles usage, which is a major debuff towards enemies' attacks damage, which we can also combine further with the Disruption Spike for further strengthening the effect. Horde Shuttle to where we can generate Threadlings more easily, and then lastly, to Shreds, which will grant us and my team Woven Mail from Destroy Tangles. All of this when combined allows the players to play a more close range setup that's effective enough to push out enough damage to help you out in sticky situations, while also giving you enough damage reduction in return to where you can play aggressive if you choose to. I would say such a build would be good for new players, as it gives you everything you would want via Strand, while also showcasing the full force of Strand when its buffs and debuffs are all active on the field. Now, the only issue you will have to accept is that once the season is over, you will lose these additional seasonal mods, which are generally game changing. But This of course can be updated down the line for a more flexible build. Overall, here's a great hunter build that is really worth the time and effort for this season alone. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the build breakdown. If you have any thoughts on the content shared, then please leave a like, a comment and sub while you're here. I will leave a dim link for the build below, and for more stuff like this, the live playlist available covering all types of builds you desire. It was great sharing today's video with you all, and I hope to see you again soon.